Welcome to Congregation Beth Yeshurun on this beautiful first Friday night of June 2022. Shabbat Shalom, and it's not only the first Friday night of June, it's also the day before Shavuot, because tomorrow night we're going to celebrate Shavuot. We'll talk about that later. Anyway, tonight we're going to start with a nigun. Now please rise as we bless the Shabbat candles.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kideshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu le'adlik ner v'tzivanu le'adlik ner v'tzivanu le'adlik ner shel Shabbat.
You may be seated. Now that we've lit the lights and blessed them, we're going to welcome the Sabbath angels. Shalom Aleichem, page 5.
Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Asharet, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech Malchei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Boachem Leshalom, Malachei Ashalom, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech Malchei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Barchuni leshalom, malachei ashalom, malachei elyon, mi melech malchei hamlachim, hakadosh baruch hu. Zeitchem leshalom, malachei ashalom, malachei elyon, mi melech malchei hamlachim, hakadosh baruch hu.
Lechu Neranana, let us sing to God, page 11.
Lechu neranena, lechu neranena, lechu neranena, l'Adonai. Lechu neranena, lechu neranena, lechu neranena, l'Adonai. Naria, naria, letzori, נרננה, לכו נרננה, לכו נרננה לאדוני. לכו נרננה, לכו נרננה, לכו נרננה לאדוני.
Let the heavens rejoice. Yismechu Hashamayim, page 14.
ישמחו השמיים, ישמחו השמיים, ישמחו השמיים, ותגל הארץ. ישמחו השמיים, ישמחו השמיים, ישמחו השמיים, ותגל Yiramayam, 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 Umelo. Yiramayam, 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 Umelo. Yismechu hashamayim, Yismechu hashamayim, Yismechu hashamayim, v'tagel Yiramayam, 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 Omelo. Yiramayam, 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 Omelo.
Okay, so far was the warm-up act. I hope everybody's in a festive mood. And now we're all festive and ready to go. We're going to welcome in the Sabbath bride with Lecha Dodi, page 23.
Lecha Dodi nikrat kala b'nei Shabbat nekavela. Lecha Dodi nikrat kala b'nei Shabbat nekavela. שמרת וזכור בדיבור אחד, השמיענו אל המיוחד. אדוני אחד ושמו אחד, לשם ותפארת, ולי תהילה, ולי תהילה. לך דודי לקראת גלה פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת גלה פני שבת נקבלה. לקראת שבת לכו ונלכה, כי מקור הברכה. בראש מקדם נסוכה, סוף מעשה ומחשבה נחירה. לך דודי לקראת גלה בני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת גלה בני שבת נקבלה. בואי ושלום עצרת מעלה, גם בשמחה ובצהלה, תוך אמוני עם סגולה. בואי חלה, בואי חלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה בני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה בני שבת נקבלה.
You may be seated. Now that the Sabbath bride has entered, we're going to sing her a special song, Mizmor Shir Liyom Shabbat, a song for the Sabbath bride, Tov Lehodot Ladonai. It's good to give thanks to God. Page 27.
טוב, טוב, טוב להודות, טוב להודות לאדוני, ולזמר, ולזמר, ולזמר לשמך עליון. טוב, טוב, טוב להודות, טוב להודות לאדוני, ולזמר, ולזמר, ולזמר לשמך עליון. להגיד בבוקר בחסדך לאמונתך בלילות עלי עשור ועלי נבל עלי היגיון וכינור טוב 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 להודות לאדוני ולזמר לשמך עליון טוב 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 להודות לאדוני ולזמר לשמך עליון ולזמר לשמך עליון טוב טוב להודות
even in the midst of all of our rejoicing, all this wedding imagery, which is so nice, and the end of the week and Shavuot is coming up, we always take time in the midst of all of our happiness to remember those and think of those whose hearts are heavy tonight, those who are in mourning, those who are feeling the pain of loss. And if that is you, to you, we say, may God comfort you along with all the mourners of Zion and Jerusalem. If you are currently in mourning or if you are observing a yard site, I invite you to turn to page 30 to join me for the Mourner's Kaddish. Yit Gadal v'yikadash shemei Rabbah.
Amen.
Be'alma divra kiratei v'yamlich malchutei b'chayechon v'yomechon u'b'chayei d'chol Beit Yisrael ba'agala v'zman kari v'imru Amen. Yehei shmei Rabbah mevorach le'olam almei almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shmei d'kudesha brichu le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata tush b'chata v'nechemata da'amiram be'alma v'imru Amen. Yehei shlama Rabbah min shemaya v'chaim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru Amen. Oseh shalom b'mrumav Hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru Amen. I now invite everyone to rise to turn to page 39 for the Baruch Hu.
Baruch Hu et Adonai HaMevorach Baruch Adonai HaMevorach Le'olam Va'ed.
And you may be seated. With timeless love, you have loved your people, the house of Israel. Page 40, Ahavat Olam.
Ahavat Olam, Beit Yisrael, Amchavta, Torah u'mitzvot, Chukim u'mishpatim, Chukim u'mishpatim, Otzanu limadta, Al ken Adonai Eloheinu, V'shochvenu v'komenu, Asiach v'chukecha, Ahavat Olam, Beit Yisrael, Amchavta, Torah u'mitzvot, Chukim u'mishpatim, Otzanu limadta, ונשמח בדברי תורתך ובמצוותיך לעולם ועד, כי הם חיינו ואורך ימינו, ובהם נגי יומם ולילה, ואהבתך תסיר ממנו לעולמים,
turn to page 41 for the Shema.
Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha Bechol levavecha vechol nafshecha vechol meyotecha ve'ayu advarim ha'ele Asher anochi metzavecha hayom al levavecha veshinantam levanecha vedibarta ba'am veshivtecha v'veitecha v'lechtecha v'derech ושוכבך ובקומך וקשרתם להיות על ידיך והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך.
We continue silently with the paragraphs on page 42. Who is like you, Adonai, among the mighty? Who is like you, adorned in holiness, revered in praise, working wonders? Michamocha, page 44.
Michamocha ba'elim Adonai, Michamocha nehar b'kodesh nora nora, nora tehilot osef eleh. Michamocha ba'elim Adonai, Michamocha nehar b'kodesh nora nora, nora tehilot osef eleh. מלכותך ראו בניך, חוקי הים לפני משה. זה לי, ענו ויאמרו. מלכותך ראו בניך, חוקי הים לפני משה. זה לי, ענו ויאמרו. כמוך באים אדוני, מי כמוך נהדר בקודש נורא נורא, נורא תהילות אוסף אלeh. מי כמוך באים אדוני, מי כמוך נהדר בקודש נורא נורא, נורא תהילות אוסף אלeh. Adonai yimloch leolam va'ed. Adonai yimloch leolam va'ed. Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi chamocha nehar b'kodesh nora nora, nora tehilot osef eleh, osef eleh, osef eleh.
Allow us, Adonai our God, to sleep peacefully. Awaken us to life, O sovereign. Spread over us your canopy of peace. Restore us with your good counsel, and save us for the sake of your name. Shield us. Hashkivenu, page 45.
השכיבנו אדוני אלוהינו לשלום והעמידנו מלכנו לחיים. השכיבנו אדוני אלוהינו לשלום והעמידנו מלכנו לחיים. ושמור צאתנו ובואנו לחיים ושלום מעתה ועד עולם ועד עולם ועד עולם. השכיבנו אדוני אלוהינו לשלום והעמידנו מלכנו לחיים. השכיבנו אדוני אלוהינו לשלום והעמידנו מלכנו לחיים.
Now, as we get ready to do the Amidah, we're going to sing Vishamru. And if you want to know why it's here tonight, come back Sunday morning when I talk about the fourth commandment. Everybody knows what the fourth commandment is, right? Shabbat. So we're going to give the 10 commandments tomorrow night. Sunday morning, I'm going to talk about the fourth commandment. And one of the things I'll mention is Vishamru. So come back Sunday morning. Page 46, we'll sing it tonight.
ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. ביני ובין בני ישראל אותי לעולם, אותי לעולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. כי ששת ימים עשה אדוני, עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. וביום השביעי שבת ויהי נפש, שבת ויהי נפש, שבת ויהי נפש. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם.
Please rise for Chatzi Kaddish.
יתגדל ויתקדש שמי רבה, ועלמא דברה גדותי וימליך מלכותי. בחייכון וביום אחד ובחיי דכל בית ישראל, בגלה בזמן קריב ויאמרו אמן. בגלה בזמן קריב ויאמרו אמן. כי שמי רבה מברך
We pray now the silent Amidah from pages 47 to 52. If you haven't finished the Amidah, you can continue silently. Neil will now lead us in Shalom Rav, page 51.
Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Ki ata hu melech adon lechol hashalom. Ki ata hu melech adon lechol hashalom. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. V'tov beinecha levarech et Amcha Yisrael b'chol עת ובכל שעה בשלומך. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Baruch atah Adonai HaMevarech et Amo Yisrael B'Shalom. Now we turn to page 52 for Oseh Shalom, and I invite you to put your arms around the person next to you, around the people next to you, as we join together and we sway back and forth as we join together.
Now we have a special prayer for healing for those in our congregation who need a special prayer for healing of body, soul, mind, or spirit. And for those in our country who have suffered a loss from various tragedies that have happened in the past couple of weeks. People around the world who need a special prayer for healing. Together, let us pray, Misha Berach, on the inside back cover of your prayer book.
May the source of strength, who bless the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing for us and all of those we love. Kol habracha le'avoteinu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say Amen.
Now we'll remain standing just a little bit longer. We're going to do the Kaddish Shalem on page 54.
יגדל ויגדש שמי רבה,
אמן.
ואמרי ואחירותי, וימליך מלכותי, בחייכון ויומכון ובחיי לך בית ישראל, בגלה בזמן קריב וימרו אמן. יהי שמי רבה מברך, לעולם ולעולמי עולמי. יתברך וישתבח יבר וטובה ונשא, ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל, שמי לקודשה בריחו, לעילא מן כל ברכתה ושירתה, תושבחתה ונחמתה, דמירן מעלמה וימרו אמן. יגבר שטן ואתון לכל ישראל, קדם ובמוני בשמיה וימרו אמן. יש לומר רבה משמיה, וחיים עליהם על כל ישראל וימרו אמן. עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל וימרו Amen.
So while we're still standing, we're going to count the Omer. I think it's the last day of the counting coming up. I won't tell you what number it is. Neil's going to tell you.
ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם אשר נשמע מצוותיו וציוונו על ספירת העומר היום 49 יום שהם 7 שבועות לעומר.
So in English, that is, tonight will be the 49th day of the Omer, and tomorrow is Shavuot. Now you may be seated.
Not only is it about, 2 seconds before Shavuot begins, and it's Shabbat, and that's wonderful. This is a very special Shabbat also because this is Mental Health Shabbat. Too often, mental health is not thought of as health. We don't talk about mental health issues. We do not talk about people's mental health journeys. We don't talk about our own mental health journeys, which is weird because the majority of people will have some struggle with mental health at some point in their lives. The statistics show that. Mental health issues and struggles are so common, yet it's not something that we talk about. And I think, like with many aspects of things we don't want to talk about, it's because we don't want to think that it's real. We don't want to think about it. We don't want to envision other people having these kinds of struggles, and that makes it so isolating. And it makes the problem of dealing with mental health even greater because you feel like you're alone, like you're the only one with these issues. And it's simply not true. Mental health struggles existed long before COVID, but COVID has certainly put a sharper focus on mental health struggles. And so it is my honor to ask and to invite to the Bima one of our esteemed members of our congregation, Michael Wiesenthal, to share with you a few words about his own mental health journey. And by doing so, bring a little bit of education, a little bit of enlightenment, a little bit of inspiration to you all. So without further ado, Mr. Michael Wiesenthal.
I told her about 9 months ago after she made a sermon to High Holidays about mental health that I would do this, and it's been 9 months, and I told you I was going to do this. So anyway, the last time I was this excited to address the congregation was right here in the other sanctuary, almost exactly 50 years ago, but it was my bar mitzvah. That was about 3 rabbis ago. So anyway, God bless Rabbi Meir, may rest in peace. It was a typical weekend in November of 2019. I started out by attending services here at Beth Yeshurun and afterwards dinner with a couple of girlfriends from the synagogue. We had had a great dinner, lots of laughs, and even closing down the restaurant. Saturday morning, I got up as usual, went to my store. I remembered it was a slow day that day in the store, and I was feeling somewhat isolated. After closing the store, I went to see a movie. I went to see a movie alone, and that's the key word. I went alone instead of going with a friend. The movie ended early in the evening, and I went home and immediately went to bed and fell asleep. As I did every Sunday, I woke up early and went to Memorial Park to do my 6-mile walk. Walking while listening to music and being outdoors helps me manage my anxiety and depression. Mile 1 was always the hardest, but by mile 3, I could feel the endorphins kick in, and I would start to feel better. It was after completing mile 6 that my anxiety would go way down. It was like pressing my restart button. This had become a weekly ritual. On Sunday night, I broke my normal routine of attending my regular men's meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous at Holy Name Retreat. Again, I sought refuge in my isolation by going to bed early, even avoiding time with my girlfriend, Carol. It was a normal night of sleep. There was no tossing, no turning, or periods of anxiety or depression keeping me awake. The next morning, I woke up in bed to an empty house. Carol had already left early to go to work that day. My thought was that I did not want to die, but I didn't want to keep going on living like that. The mental pain had become too much, and I could no longer remember feeling good. I felt hopeless. I had been having suicidal thoughts, even going as far as to explore ways to follow through. This had become a normal thought pattern that I had always been able to move past. On this particular day, Monday, something changed. Something was different about that day. Without hesitation, I went to my bathroom. I took a bottle of prescription Klonopin from my medicine drawer that I had accumulated due to multiple prescriptions written by multiple doctors. I then went downstairs, chased the pills with a big gulp of Vicks cough medicine. I went back upstairs, laid on my back in my bed, and waited to die. God was looking out for me that day as Carol called me by phone. She detected something wrong in my voice and called 911. The last thing I remember was a banging at the door, and then I woke up 2 days later in Houston Methodist Hospital. From the time I was a teenager, I suffered from social anxiety. My father, Harold, kept a very high profile, and that set the bar even higher for me to try to follow in his footsteps. I started working at the store by the time I was 13. The family business was the center of all of our conversations. Therefore, we never took time to talk about our feelings. I remember telling my father I had a panic attack and ran out of a friend's wedding. He suggested that I lie by the pool and get some sun, which, by the way, I still find relaxing, but it wasn't just that easy. Most people did not know my father, Harold, the man that dressed 70, talked 80, and shot 90 when his putter was hot, also suffered badly from depression. You see, this disease can be genetic, and in my case, both my mother and father suffered from it. My father did a great job hiding his disease until it was so bad all he could do was sit in a chair at the store, then having a hard time even greeting our customers. To his credit, prior to his passing, he did make his mental illness public. Many people who also suffered came forward as they realized that they were not alone. At the time I started college, I realized that alcohol and marijuana would help me manage my anxiety. I also discovered recreational drugs and started using them to make me feel part of the in crowd and to manage my depression. The early 80s were a wild time here in Houston, and as the economy was booming, so was the nightlife. And I was right in the middle of it. Drugs were very easily available, and as I said, I was right in the middle of it. At that point, I began seeking therapy to address my mental illness and drug usage. Moving into my 30s, I started to see psychiatrists who tried to regulate my anxiety and depression with prescription drugs, specifically different types of antidepressants, always combined with some kind of benzodiazepine. The one that seemed to work best in my case was Klonopin. I would always take them as directed, but was still a regular user of marijuana. These prescribed medications were not effective while getting high daily. I also kept the Klonopin close to me in case I started to feel anxious, as I was directed by my doctors. Seeing many different therapists and doctors over the next 15 years, I continued to self-medicate. I was still struggling with my depression and anxiety. I never really opened up in therapy and always sought the solution in a pill. I continued to experiment with the help of psychiatrists to find the right combination of medications. Some work better than others, but none of them never really work long terms, not to mention the awful side effects. At age 50, I was diagnosed with AML leukemia. While being treated at Houston Methodist, I got caught smoking marijuana in my hospital room. And a little footnote, in AA they talk about insanity. Well, there's nothing more insane than smoking marijuana while you're taking chemotherapy in the hospital. I'm still famous on that floor at Houston Methodist. Just go up there. The medical team suggested that I quit. In my response that it was a 30-year-old habit and it just wasn't going to be that easy. I had two choices, which were either rehab or Alcoholics Anonymous. My late brother Daryl took me to my first AA meeting at the Post Oak Club. It was around that time, while recovering from a bone marrow transplant, that my dad died of natural causes and my brother Daryl from a drug-induced heart attack at age 50. To make matters worse, my marriage ended, and after 61 years, the business that I had spent most of my life at had closed. It was then I realized the benefits of the fellowship of AA, as I could barely get out of my bed due to my depression, and I was also dependent upon Klonopin. Over the next 10 years, I was in and out of the AA program, never staying sober more than a couple years, even sometimes just a few months. I continued to use marijuana, some alcohol, and prescription Klonopin, never completing the 12 steps of AA or staying in the middle of the fellowship. As time went on, my new business started to struggle. My anxiety and depression worsened. I saw less customers and I felt isolated, as I am a people person who gets energized by being around others. Finally, my anxiety and depression were so bad, I was making frequent trips to the ER as I felt as though I was coming out of my skin and losing my mind. After going to many different emergency rooms for Ativan injections, one of the doctors looked me in the eye and said, "Mr. Wiesenthal, you are a junkie." Wow. I'll never forget the way I felt that day. It's like somebody put a knife in my stomach and twisted it. And I thought junkies lived on the streets and had needles in their arms. How could I be a junkie? And that was the bottom of my addiction when I heard those words. Never forget that day. After several stays in the psych ward at Methodist Hospital, a month in rehab, and a week in a patient facility, I sought the help of a new psychiatrist and therapist. At that point, I had become dependent upon Valium to deal with my anxiety and was not going to therapy to seek the root of my problems. What was different about this doctor was she wanted to help me get off the Valium as opposed to the other doctors treated me with more drugs. It took me 14 months, along with therapy twice a week, to completely get off those pills. Today, I'm on a very light dosage of an antidepressant and also see a therapist on a weekly basis. I regularly attend AA meetings, have a sponsor that helped me work the steps, and try to stay close to the fellowship of AA. It only took me 11 years in the AA program to admit I was powerless over alcohol and drugs and that my life was unmanageable. That's step one. I want to thank my friends and family who were there for me when I was at the lowest point of my life, especially my two children, Alexandra and Jared, my ex-wife Shelley, my late mother Eleanor, and most important, my girlfriend Carol. I know I put you all through a lot, and I will never forget how you all supported me. I believe in giving back and work as a volunteer with CanCare. Helping other people allows me to get out of my own head, which is dangerous for people like me. I still reach out to the clergy here at Congregation Beth Yeshurun when I need to, and they were always there for me when I was going through my stays at the hospital. I remember getting visits by all the clergy here, and I'll never forget that. Exercise and a good diet still remain to be part of my recovery. Carol and I just became proud parents as we got a new puppy, and you could not but help to feel better when she is in your lap or licking your face. I have to remind myself every day I'm not cured from anxiety, depression, or addiction. I have a daily reprieve based on my spiritual connection. God has done for me what I could not do for myself. In closing, the reason I'm talking about this is that I feel it is time we accept mental illness as we do other diseases. Isolation and silence are not the answer. It is time that people get comfortable asking for help. Reaching out is nothing to be ashamed of and can save a life. Suicide is a permanent solution to a temporary problem. Shabbat shalom.
A huge thank you and a yashar koach to Michael Wiesenthal for sharing his deeply personal journey. I know how much Rabbi Strauss wanted to be here tonight. If it was not his daughter's graduation from Emory just about an hour ago, he would be here because he knows the way all of your clergy do, and I think the way all of you know too, that a journey through mental health is not something that one can do by themselves. And it takes so much courage to stand up here and to share the way Michael did tonight. And I know I speak on behalf of your loved ones, your clergy, and everyone here that we are so proud of you. And you saved a life tonight, Michael. I hope you know that you saved a life tonight. So thank you. It is my pleasure to turn the pulpit and the bima over to our not quite cantor, Neil Teibel. He doesn't like when I call him a cantor, so almost cantor, 2 years out cantor, Neil Teibel, who has some special folks joining him tonight from Hazamir, the International Jewish High School Choir. We're very excited, so I'm going to leave it to Neil to talk a little bit about who's coming with him and what he's going to sing.
So tonight, I'm going to invite Ellie Irwin, soprano for Hazamir Houston, and the conductor of Hazamir Houston, Sophie Lee Landau, to sing a song with me from Dear Evan Hansen called You Will Be Found. In this musical, Evan Hansen is he's a high school senior, and he struggles with mental health just as much as anyone does. And he feels the whole plot of the show centers around him feeling alone and feeling helpless and feeling left out of life wondering what it would be like if he just disappeared. And the point of this show is that nobody is alone, and this song, I believe, exemplifies that very much. Have you ever felt like nobody was there? Have you ever felt forgotten in the middle of nowhere? Have you ever felt like you could disappear? Like you could fall and no one would hear? Well, let that lonely feeling wash away. Maybe there's a reason to believe you'll be okay. 'Cause when you don't feel strong enough to stand, you can reach out your hand. And oh, someone will come running, and I know they'll take you home. Even when the dark comes crashing through, and when you need a friend to carry you, and when you're broken on the ground, you will be found. So let the sun come streaming in, 'cause you'll reach up and you'll rise again. Lift your head and look around. You will be found. You will be found. You will be found. You will be found. You will be found.
There's a place where we don't have to feel alone. And every time that you call out, you're a little less alone.
If you only say the word, from across the silence, your voice is heard. Oh, 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 someone will come running. Oh, someone will come running. Someone will come running to take you home.
To take you home.
To take you home. Even when the dark comes crashing through, and when you need a friend to carry you, and when you're broken on the ground, you will be found. So let the sun come streaming in, 'cause you'll reach up and you'll rise again. Lift your head and look around. You will be found. You will be found. You will be found. You will be found. Out of the shadows, the morning is breaking, and all is new. All is new. It's filling up the empty, and suddenly I
you're broken on the ground.
You will be found. 'Cause you'll reach up and you'll rise again if you only look around.
You will be found.
And even when the dark comes crashing through,
You will be found.
when you need someone to carry you, you will be found. You will be found. You will be found.
I want to thank our Hazamir singers and almost cantor Neil Tybell. A beautiful song to follow Michael's talk. So now we're going to rise and appropriately, I think, sing Aleinu l'shabeach la'adon hakol. It is incumbent on us to give praise and thanks to the Master of time and space, for the gift of our lives and for the gift of the world we live in. Aleinu, page 56.
עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצא בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו ככל המונם. ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא, שהוא נוטה שמיים ויוסד הארץ, ומושב יקרו השמיים ממעל, ושכינתו זו בגובי מרמים. הוא אלוהינו אין עוד, אמת מלכנו אפס זולתו, כה כתוב בתורתו, וידעת היום והכשרות אל לבבך, כי אדוני הוא האלוהים בשמיים ממעל, ועל הארץ מתחת אין עוד. ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ, ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו אחד.
You may be seated. And now we'll recite the Mourner's Kaddish, which is found on page 58. So if you are observing a yard site or if you're in mourning, please join me in the Kaddish. We'd also like to extend our condolences to the families of the victims of the Uvalde mass shooting this past week. Mourner's Kaddish, page 58. Yit Kadal v'yit Kadash Shemei Rabbah, V'yalma Divra Chirutei V'yamlich Malchutei, v'chayichon uvyomechon uv'chaye dechol beit Yisrael ba'agalau v'zman kariv v'yimru amen. Yehi shmei rabbah mivarach le'olam le'olmei maya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shemei dekudsha berechu le'ila min kol birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechemata da'amiron b'yoma v'yimru amen. Yehi shlama rabba min shemaya v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'yimru amen. Osei shalom b'mramav hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'yimru amen. So our Shabbat evening services, like most services, they're an hour and a half long, however long they are. They're rather like a symphony. Symphonies have fast, happy parts and slow, contemplative parts, sad parts perhaps. It's a lot of different things mixed together. So right now we're going to go back to the happy parts, and we're going to celebrate anniversaries that are coming this week. So we have 3 anniversaries that I know about, and as I call your name, please stand so we can so we can acknowledge you and applaud your wonderful marriage, and we'll say a blessing for you at the end. So first, celebrating 56 years, Ricky and Milton Frankfurt. 56 years. So this past year in May, you celebrated the graduations of grandchildren, 1 college graduate, 2 high school graduates, and 1 elementary school graduation. Quite an accomplishment. All right, Mazel Tov. And it's great to see you again. And celebrating 60 years, Sandy and Joe Kirk. Sandy and Joe, you are enjoying good health, and you were there to celebrate the conversion of your grandson, Sammy. And now you have the birth of a new grandson, Elijah, and your granddaughter, Samantha, graduated summa cum laude from SMU Law School, future lawyer. So Mazel Tov. Wonderful year. It's great to see you as well, and I'm sure there's many happy things we're going to celebrate in the coming years. But wish you a Mazel Tov on all of your accomplishments and achievements, and mostly celebrating the love that you've cherished with each other for 60 years. And finally, Michelle and Martin Greenberg, 61 years. You win the Longevity Award this evening, 61 years of marriage. You are thankful for Michelle's health after having a heart attack and surgery, the birth of your 2nd great-grandchild in March, the 2nd birthday of your 1st great-grandchild, your granddaughter's graduation from UT Law School, and another from SMU with a master's degree in teaching, and a 3rd from Ohio State cum laude, and a job with the NFL. We are also thankful and proud of all 7 of your grandchildren. Mazel Tov. What wonderful lives you've all had together, and we want to wish you a Mazel Tov and Yasher Koach, and may you enjoy many, many more years of happiness and joy together with your families, and of course with your congregation family here at Beth Yeshurun. So Mazel Tov, wonderful life to celebrate with you tonight. We have a few announcements. The religious school is still looking for teachers, so if you know somebody who would like to teach in our religious school, please contact Cheryl Eskowitz. As I mentioned a couple times this evening, tomorrow night is the beginning of Shavuot. There's a custom of learning together. We'll be learning together from about 7 o'clock until midnight, and this year we're joining together with several congregations to learn together at Brit Shalom. Probably next year we're going to do it over here, but this year we're doing it at Brit Shalom. At 7:30, Rabbi Ford is going to speak about the other Tikkun Olam, accidental adultery. Okay, so to learn about that, you'll have to come to her talk at 7:30. 9:23, I'll be talking about Isaiah, Ezekiel, and the Kedusha. And at 9:44, Rabbi Strauss will be talking about Don't Be So Humble. So please join us for that, as well as Sunday morning at 8:30. We're going to have a joint service in the J.B. Greenfield Chapel, when I'll be talking about Vishamru, among other things. And then Monday morning is Yisker, beginning at 8:30 in the chapel, 9:30 here in the Friedman Levitt. Yisker services concluding with a Kiddush lunch sponsored by the Shirley and Bruce Stein family. Fathers and children are invited to join us for Shabbat Renewal Friday, June 17th, for a special Father's Shabbat, and we'll offer a special blessing as we celebrate our dads. And if you have a friend or family member who's in the hospital, remember that we don't get notice of those things unless you tell us. So please call so we can make a visit. And that is the end of the announcements for this evening.
I have one.
Oh, you have an
really
announcement.
quickly. So, if you enjoyed the singers from Hazimir Houston, talk to Sophie Lee, the conductor, and Leah Stoller. She'll be passing out some cards. I have some cards if you have a grandchild or child who is, or great-grandchild, if you may be here. If you have a child, grandchild, or great-grandchild who is entering high school, or in 7th or 8th grade, there's Haza Prep. If you have a child who is in 7th or 8th grade, or entering high school, or in high school, and wants to sing, wants to find ways to sing, talk to me, talk to Sophie Lee Landau, talk to Ellie, talk to Leah Stolar, and we'll give you some info. It's meets Sundays at 10 a.m. We'll tell you the info. But it meets on Sundays during the year, and sign up. We always need singers. I was one my first year, so we always need singers.
Right. Hazimir is a wonderful program. It's an international program, and part of the program is going to New York and singing at Carnegie. Is it Carnegie?
Lincoln Center.
Lincoln Center. You sing at Lincoln Center with a huge group of kids from all over the world. It's an amazing program. So if you know someone who likes to sing, invite them to join.
It looks really good on a college resume.
Incidentally. Okay, so now we're going to conclude with Kiddush.
Page 55. Rise.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen
Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'atzavanu v'shabbat kodsho v'ava uvratzon inchilanu zikaron le'masei v'reishit ki hu yom techila le'mikra'ei kodesh zeicher letziat mitzrayim kivanu v'acharta ve'otanu kidashta mikol ha'amim ve'shabbat kodshecha ve'ava uvratzon inchaltanu Baruch atah Adonai Mekadesh HaShabbat
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom Shabbat Shalom Shabbat 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 Shalom Shabbat Shalom Shabbat Shalom Shabbat 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 Shalom Shabbat 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 Shalom Shabbat 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 Shalom Shabbat Shalom Shabbat Shalom Shabbat 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 Shalom Shabbat Shalom Shabbat Shalom Shabbat 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 Shalom Shabbat Shalom everyone.